Guys, we are live. Today is 14th of November, and here is Brian, Craig, Mario. Hi, Mario, and Nick, and me. Well, okay. Nick, let's start with you.
Yeah, I guess I still don't have much to say. So yesterday, basically during the Scrum, I pinged the client on Google Plus to tell them that there were stories waiting for them to review. So everything, or almost everything that you see in Resolved, is ready for them to look at and either accept or reject. And I've heard nothing back. I have reached out to Motisum today because there's this, to go to production, as we've discussed, we would like to set up a private repo on GitHub to protect some of our clients' proprietary code. So I've been waiting on Motisum to do that, but then I also had a thought that since we don't have the proprietary code at the moment, we can just push our staging to the master branch on our public Git repo, GitHub repo rather, and use that to deploy to our production server, and that would allow me, in the meantime at least, to install New Relic on it, make sure that everything is functioning properly, and then when time comes we can transition to the private repo if that is still necessary. And the other thing I've done, I shared this article in the channel today about refactoring fat models. We have at least a couple of models that are getting pretty chunky. So more as an exercise for myself, I started looking at the orphan model. I think it would be premature to actually start refactoring it, considering how much churn there is still. With the importer being still fixed up and transition to the new format, etc. But one of the things that is very obvious to me is that the father needs to be extracted into its own class.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of logic, both a lot of attributes that are related to the father and a lot of logic that goes in to validate it, and that definitely shouldn't be the business of the orphan to validate the father. But there are also there were 7 steps here altogether about different refactorings that can be performed, and I think many of them can apply to our models. So I'll, like I said, I think it's probably trying to do it right now. There would be just too much to redo afterwards. But once things stabilize a little bit, that would be something that I think we should focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for now, that's it for me.
Okay. Craig?
I've merged a pull request and started code review on Brian's current pull request. I've been on Slack a little bit.
Okay. Anything blocking you?
No.
Brian? By the way, it's very strange. When I open this board, I do not see Brian's photo. I cannot understand why. Maybe because I'm not logged in, I use it without logging in. Maybe it's security avatar of Brian, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, can you see other icons?
Yes. I look only Brian's icon.
That's weird. Maybe I'll try re-uploading it.
It's really weird. I don't know. It's just strange.
I do like that icon as well a lot.
His avatar is, on a need-to-know basis, I guess.
So I was refactoring some stuff for code review, and I had to go downtown for an unrelated thing for a while. So on 208, got stuck when I was working on it last. I still need to figure out why that won't work. For some reason, it was refusing to submit a form. Well, it would submit it fine with a get verb, but not with a put or post verb. And I was under the impression that forms were always submitted with post or put anyway, so I'm not really sure what's causing that.
Right. Why did you move it to do stage?
I did move it earlier because I wasn't working on it this morning. I was working on code review. I didn't know if
You have
in progress
story.
means I'm...
No, you
Huh?
you shouldn't move any story into do stage when you start working on it. You just can flag it. Click the right button on the story and flag it, and we will know that you have problem with this story for some reason. And when you will decide the problem, we just unflag it.
Okay.
But
So
you've
I was
done-
wondering,
Sorry.
does anybody else put a form in one of the active admin views? A form aside from the active admin form?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I was having issues
So-
with that.
How long until we decide to get rid of active admin?
You
Probably
normally
a couple more weeks. I'm thinking.
It shouldn't be that long, right?
What's your thoughts, Nick?
My thoughts are, I think, naively optimistic.
Okay.
So it's good that you're here, maybe to bring me down to earth. But if its main job that it's doing for us is providing CRUD controller actions and views, and while that's a lot of work to build it up from nothing, it's fairly straightforward, kind of clear-cut work. There aren't that many tricks that you need to just implement simple, new create, edit, update, etc. But it's definitely beyond the immediate future.
Okay, let's discuss that issue on retrospective.
And unless people have something else to say about it.
Well, I don't think we should be diving to change it, but I think with all these frameworks, if you've got a simple app and you work within the confines of the framework, then it's a big win.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get more and more specific requirements from the customers needed in a certain way, and it seems to me that if it's not standard CRUD stuff, you're fighting with the framework all the time.
Yeah.
Nick, what about will we have client meeting on Saturday or Sunday?
Well, I asked this in the channel because did you see that message, Pavel?
No.
No. So my take on it is that, on the one hand, we could try to poke them again into reviewing the stories that they are supposed to be reviewing, and they should have reviewed in some cases more than a week ago. But on the other hand, if they're not rushing, then why are we? Perhaps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Craig and I, in last client meeting, we made it pretty clear that it's possible for us to complete phase 0 this week, but we also pointed out that it depends very much on the review of the finished features. And as far as I could tell, they understood that they need to have a look at it and let us know as soon as possible what they think. And I think at this point it's not up to us to keep prodding them on this. So if they're content to take it easy, then let's do the same.
I think also, we were talking yesterday about how we could jolly them into action. If you, you're always asking them for the client meeting and everything. If it does go quiet for a little while, it may send the required message.
Yeah.
It might not, but it might be quite effective.
Yeah. Well, so after I asked the question, Craig, you said that basically you're okay either way. Motisim replied saying that he's quite busy on the weekend and would prefer not to have the client meeting. So of the people who spoke up so far, it seems that we're leaning towards not having it.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I don't think that will do any harm at all.
Okay.
Okay, well, no client meeting will be fun. Okay, let's take one more week, and after this, next week we'll decide what to do and how to work. Because if the client won't be that fast, we will split between maybe 2 projects. Maybe we can take 1 more project into our team. If the client, it's just 1 week that client was really busy, then we will proceed with normal pace. So we'll see.
Sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, we lost Mario. Huh?
Yeah.
A couple of times. I think he must be having broadband problems. He's joined left.
That's a shame.
Who is Mario, actually?
He's in the CS169 class. I'm not sure if he's in 1 or 2, but...
Brian's the man in the know. He's paired with most of them.
Yeah.
Well,
Brian is the face of OSRA.
Yeah, good going.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, that avatar is not with, I don't know. For some reasons, I won't believe in this avatar. I don't know.
I think it's fantastic.
It's not very accurate. I mean, there you go.
It doesn't matter. It's distinctive. It's great.
Okay, guys, any other questions to discuss?
I've left a message on Brian's pull request that I would like other people's opinions on. Where another chance to kick active admin while it's down.
Another one?
Yeah. It's we're doing conditionals on index views, and I think I've put a note that I think we should maybe be creating custom controllers in our own view for that. I'd like to know what people's opinions are if they get a chance. Have a look at that. Comment and give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I glanced at your discussion, but I didn't go in depth. Based on what you said just now, I think it's a no-brainer to me to go with custom controllers. But I don't know, I suppose it depends on the size of the condition. But from what I saw when I did look at the PR, there's quite a bit of, they're essentially almost 2 separate views, aren't they?
Yeah, well, yeah. Even if the views share the same functionality, they're doing different things, aren't they? One's showing an index and one's linking an orphan. So,
yeah.
Conceptually, if you're coming in from the code, well, I mean, I was going to say if you're coming in from the code and haven't seen it before, it would make it more obvious. But even if you're familiar with the code, it just makes things cleaner, I think, from a conceptual point of view.
I don't see your latest remark, but I did refactor that. Did you look at it
No,
afterward?
Refactor, that's good. If that other comment, that you should see that comment in Slack as well.
I just looked through a GitHub and didn't see it. Let me look in Slack.
And then the only other thing that that I can really comment on is I don't think we need a proc there. I think we can just call the model directly.
Which proc now?
Well, I think we could take both of them out.
For the filters or for the to determine which view we're on?
The two procs at the very top before you go into the breadcrumbs.
The filter ones? Okay. Oh, before the breadcrumbs, those are the other ones. So
I'll post a comment on there. They're just basically one of them becomes a little bit irrelevant if we go to custom controllers because you're using it to try and find out whether there's a scope param or not, and then which index view we render is based on whether that scope parameter's there. If we go for a custom controller for the linking of orphans, that becomes irrelevant because we'll have different.
If we don't separate the controller, then those are. I could not find a way to get rid of either of those four procedures. The two in the filters, for some reason, are only needed when you're running the tests, and I haven't figured out why.
Okay.
The other two that you're talking about, actually, when active admin registers the class, there are no parameters because there's no HTTP requests. So that was causing a lot of issues, and sticking the dereferencing of the parameter in a procedure is what solves that. That was why I did that.
Okay. Well, let's. I think if we're all agreed, maybe we go down the custom controller route and see what that leaves us with, and then we can take things from there. Are you happy with that as an idea, Brian? So
well,
we still have an index view, but the index view would just be for the index view, and then we'd have a custom controller called, I don't know, link.
So have you loaded that PR up in a browser and played with it?
I've not. Yes. Not to the extent that I've run tests and seen tests failing, but I've played around a little bit with the procs and what have you, and taken them out to, and I can see the problem that you're having with the index. I can see why that, because the index, I think those blocks are run, as you say, and turned into closures before.
So the active admin has been causing me a lot of headaches, but if you actually look at that end result in your browser, you might be kind of happy with it, because a lot of that stuff would be probably more difficult for us to do if we made our own controller and view. Not that I'm against it.
Well, you can make a custom controller in active admin, can't you? So in that active admin file, if you look at Motorsum's,
yeah, I believe you can put a regular Rails controller in there and then just call a view an ARB or ERB or whatever.
Yeah,
I think.
And that's what Motorsum did for the pending orphan list. And I'm just wondering whether we don't do that for linking up orphans and sponsors.
So what would that gain us at this point?
Well, for it to be really obvious in the code. I mean, we've got a clear separation of concerns at the moment. I don't know, this index, if params has eligible sponsor, it doesn't actually tell us when we're reading it, it's not obvious to me. I mean, it may be to other people, but it's not obvious to me what conditions we're testing. Or it's obvious what conditions we're testing, but it's not obvious the reasons why we're testing them for, and then what we're rendering based on those conditions. Whereas if you had a custom controller action called link to sponsor, it's obvious. I don't know what other people's thoughts are.
I'm following your logic, Craig. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I do follow your logic, and I follow everything you're saying, but I think if you actually pull that up in WebRick and look at it, you might understand a lot of why it's done that way, because there's most of the view is actually reused between the two. I know when you look at the code it might not appear that way, but if you actually pull it up, actually, you know what, I've got it. If you guys are going to be on the call for a few more minutes. Oh, rats. Oh, yeah, you might want to. It's going to take me a minute to pull it up.
Well, that gives me an opportunity to tell you that we've been bad-mouthing the client for no good reason. They have actually posted on Google+. They clarified something for us. They have accepted filtering of orphans by gender, and they have provided us a list of filters that they want to see on each index page. So out of, I think there were 5 stories that were pending, they have accepted 1. So, you know, we're still far from, I don't know what to say, but at least there's some activity there.
Well, shall we still leave it for the weekend and then come back to them next week? And
you know, from the practical standpoint, I think we might as well, because nothing's going to get resolved at this client meeting. If you know, we still have stories that I haven't pushed up to staging because I wanted them to finish looking at the ones that are currently pending. You know, it's difficult for me to imagine that they will accept everything, let's say tomorrow, and then accept the remaining stories on Sunday. So let's take a break.
we've lost your screen, Brian.
And can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I've got too many virtual machines running. I think I have to stop one. Let me just kill this one real quick. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So here is what it looks like now. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. So when you click link to orphan,
Yeah.
So well, I came from a sponsor, so you show up on the linking view.
Yeah.
This here is new. This is new. This is new.
Yeah, I've had this up and running. I've seen it. The only thing that changes between the two views is the sponsor header, isn't it? And your link.
Well, there's actually 4 views here.
Okay.
So there's if you have a sponsor pulled up, and then there's if you have a sponsor but you're not looking to sponsor, and then there's if you don't have a sponsor, there's 2 different scopes, and then there's either that you have a sponsor picked or you don't. So this is all of them. But see here, you still have a sponsor. So if you were to go back here, you would get the link to sponsor again.
Yeah.
Whereas if you went there from here, and these I almost called them peanuts. These breadcrumbs change. And that now if you go back here, that you're not going to get a sponsor link because it has forgotten which sponsor you were looking at this point. But it'll still show you which orphans are eligible for sponsorship and filter them and do all that. It's just not going to give you the link. So there's actually 4 separate views here. It's pretty convenient the way you can just go between any of them, though. I thought. I don't know.
I see utility for that selector between all orphans and eligible orphans. I see utility for that on.
And that's one thing that might lose too if we made separate views for this, or we might not lose it, but it would be a whole nother feature to put it in effectively.
But the way I look at it, there is utility for it on the main index view, but there isn't a lot of use for it when you're trying to link a sponsor to an orphan, is there? Because when you're trying to set up a sponsorship, you're not most likely.
There could be some.
I mean, I can. We can imagine a kind of a scenario where they want to see, oh wait, let's have a look at somebody else that we just sponsored, or.
Yeah, okay, so I can see a use for it. So if I'm picturing myself using it, and shortcut here. So if I was using it, and I was picking a sponsor, I mean, I was picking an orphan to sponsor, so I was on this view here, which is coming up in a few seconds. So basically, a case where you might need to use it is, okay, I've got these orphans that can be sponsored, and this is what province they're in, or whatever other field I might say. I could be wondering, okay, well, how many orphans are already sponsored from HOMS, or how many, are there a whole bunch of them already sponsored that fall in a certain category already? I can't look at that from this view, but if I click all, I can look at that. So, I mean, I can't think of reasons it would be useful. It wasn't a requested feature.
No, I don't have an issue with that, and I can understand that. I guess trying to explain where I'm coming from. If we throw active admin out the picture completely and we were doing it as a standard Rails thing, we'd have an index view, and then anything that we were reusing across controller actions, we'd have a partial for, and we'd render the partial. Are we agreed?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and just because active admin's being constrains us, I think we should still have that separation of concerns. And I think I understand what we're trying to do, and I see the merits in doing it, and I don't think we should necessarily back out from doing it. But having conditionals in the index, trying to work out which screen we're in where, and rendering things based on parameters or what have you, that feels awkward to me. So I think what you're saying is right, and I think all that's good. I guess I'm less comfortable about how we're doing that at the moment, if that makes sense.
Are you trying to say that if we do it this way, it might lead to technical debt later, where it gets too complicated, or there's not separation?
And checking the param for scope as a way of working out where we are in the application, I don't think that's obvious.
Well, this is actually active admins doing this scope parameter.
Yeah.
The sponsor ID parameter was my doing.
No, that makes sense. I mean, that's a standard parameter. But or if we're going to keep it as is, then having a method that says called from X ? And has those calls pulled into that method, so it's obvious what we're doing. I mean, I don't have a definitive way of doing it. I would put it into custom controllers. That's what I would do if I was doing it. But I don't have an issue exactly of how we do it. I just think it needs to be more obvious why we're rendering what. I'm not explaining that very well at all.
Basically, you're saying that if the logic stays in the views, then it needs to be abstracted to the point where you can just read it and understand exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would still, I mean, my real happy place, I think, the more I think about this, would be to have a custom controller and pull and have a separation of concerns. But if other people don't agree with that, then, you know, I'm happy to talk about it. But I think at the moment it's not clear when we say if it has this param, then render this view, and if it doesn't, it's not obvious what we're trying to achieve. You know, I sat to work out what was going on, not having written the code. I had to pull down the code, pull up a web browser, and go through the code and see where we were at different views to work out what the code was doing.
So, I guess, Craig, did you see this yet? It's at the very end of the file because I couldn't put it anywhere else for technical reasons. It has to be at the very end. But this might be what you're talking about. I'm not sure if we can try to understand each other. Essentially what I did is made two views, but I made them inside this active admin, whatever. I don't even know what they call these. They're like a mashup between controllers and views.
Okay. Well, let me have another look. Is that been done recently, or have I just missed it?
I think I pushed it a couple hours ago.
Okay. Let me have another look and see where we are.
3 hours ago, it says.
Yeah, I've probably not seen that.
Brian, why you have in black-white colors?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I was wondering that myself. I was going to look at that as soon as I hang up. See, this computer doesn't.
Oh.
But for some reason, this computer went halfway black and white. I don't know.
And another question, what is this LED lamp in Ubuntu? I've never seen this icon.
What is what?
LED lamp in the toolbar. What is it?
Which icon is that?
Yeah. What is it?
That's my IDE, my text editor. What's this thing? Genie.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good icon. That's all what I can understand from what you're talking, so sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, any other questions to discuss? Or let's go and have a good evening?
No, I'm cool.
Okay, great. Then see you tomorrow on America Scrum or on Monday.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.